Before we get started with this episode, I have a few requests. Download the Talk Music Talk app. It is free for iPhone and Android, wherever you get your apps, or you can subscribe on iTunes or Google Play. Once you do, just leave a rating and or review in the store to help spread the word about the podcast. Second, share this episode on social media if you enjoy it. Facebook, Twitter, however you like to do it. It will help spread the word about the podcast. And finally, I am in the process of acquiring advertisers and sponsors, and I need your help. Just take a quick survey on my website at talkmusictalk.com/survey. Should take you 30 seconds or less, and it will be greatly appreciated. And now for today's show. Hello there. Welcome to another episode of Talk Music Talk with Boice. I am Boice, and this is my podcast. You are listening to episode 104. Talk Music Talk is a weekly music interview podcast where I have long-form discussions with people who are connected to music from different genres and different backgrounds, musicians, singers, and songwriters, music therapists, and music journalists. And on episode 104, I had the pleasure of speaking to Kurt Feldman. He is the frontman of Ice Choir, which is an 80s synth project of his. They released one of my favorite albums of the year, Designs in Rhythm. Discover them on a routine Bandcamp search, as I am wont to do. Kurt is a born and bred New Yorker, a musician, vocalist, producer, mixer, engineer, and in addition to his own projects, he was in the band's Depreciation Guild, and also he was a drummer in the indie band The Pains of Being Pure at Heart. We talk about that band. We talk about how he became a member, what it was like. In 2012, he released the first Ice Choir album. And as I mentioned, the new album, Designs in Rhythm, is out now, came out in September. We discuss it. We discuss the influences of it, which is 80s Japanese pop. We talk about that genre of music, what it means to him, inspiration. We also talk about his songwriting process and his approach to lyrics. After the conversation, you will hear two songs from Designs in Rhythm, my two favorite songs, Noosphering and The Garden of Verse. Right after the conversation, here it is, without further ado, Kurt Feldman, Ice Choir, on Talk Music Talk. Enjoy. Thank you for doing this. Yeah.
Of course.
As I said, pre-recording. Okay. But as I was researching you, I found out about you doing mixing on Dive's album.
Yeah, I worked a little bit on that one.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite albums of the year, actually. Cool. How did that come about?
Well, I guess working on that one came about through my friend Tamarin.
Mm-hmm.
She has a band called Tamarin.
Okay.
I played with those guys for a little bit, just kind of helping to get their live show kind of off the ground. And she actually just recommended me. They were like kind of in the sort of like final-ish stages of like finishing that record. Yeah. Dive, that is. And, you know, they just needed some people to kind of like bring together a few songs and kind of like make a few adjustments. So I did some stems mixing for several of the songs on that record, and then I just mixed from scratch that one song, Grant's song.
Okay, so you just did one song? Or
that one, yeah, that was the one I did in full on that record, and then kind of like tweaked a bunch of other stuff.
Okay. So what was the tweaking?
Yeah, it was like the recording process for that record was kind of like all over the place. They did it at a couple different studios with a couple different engineers, I think. Ended up re-recording some stuff for I don't know the full story. Yeah. I wasn't really there for that, but yeah, needless to say, it was done in a bunch of places. So,
what is your process or procedure for mixing? Like, the band tells you what they're looking for. How's that work?
Yeah, I mean, I always like to get some references for kind of like what just to find out like what they're into and like what kind of sound they like, and then I just sort of figure out how to get them there.
Yeah,
based on what I have to work with, pretty much. And kind of, adjust expectations accordingly, I guess, depending on that. But, yeah.
Were you like a fan beforehand?
Yeah. Actually, I've seen those guys like a couple times. And I remember thinking they were a cool band before I even knew Cole or the really only just like hung out with Cole on that whole process. But, Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing them a couple times and thinking they were a pretty cool band. So,
how long you been mixing?
I mean, I kind of like just like fell into that sort of, but like I guess like I don't know, 3 or 4 years. I like probably could like go as far back as like 4 years, saying I've mixed stuff for other people besides myself. But yeah, I mean, I guess it just kind of came about like people heard stuff that I worked on and like asked if I could help them with their stuff, and then kind of like slowly grew into like a more, I don't know, not like steady, but like more like recurring.
Okay. And how is that a part of the mixing, engineering, producing? Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess like it's like it's not too far off from any of the stuff. Like any of those aforementioned like labels, career titles, kind of like have lots of like gray areas to them, especially now when like kind of like everyone kind of does everything themselves. So like sometimes like you're kind of hired for a production role ends up like being more of a mixing role, or like vice versa, whatever. It's all kind of like vague and whatever. I think personally. But yeah, I mean, I guess like I started like producing stuff because like I think like having concrete ideas is like a thing you have like before you have like the skill set to like really properly mix stuff, and I think you kind of like learn that maybe along the way, or at least that was the case for me. So that's kind of like how I fell into like mixing stuff for other people. But before that I was like kind of like being hired as like sort of more of an ideas man. Okay, kind of
that's an important.
Yeah,
if you don't have ideas, where do you go from there? So you have someone to do it.
Very true.
So but the music came first. Were you making music?
Yeah,
musician first. Like,
Like I'm like a guitar player basically.
Okay, his first instrument.
That was my first instrument. Okay. Yeah, I kind of picked up bass shortly after that, and then just kind of like growing up, like my parents, my dad's like a musician. He plays keyboard, but kind of more for fun. But like they were always like really encouraging about music. So like I have 2 brothers younger than me, and like we would all kind of like they got us a drum kit like when we were really young, which was really cool. So like my little brother Dave actually took drum lessons, but like I would always play drums all the time too, because like there was just a kid in the basement, which was great. So we all had like bands growing up, and we play with each other. We had like a music teacher that like kind of played everything too. So like we would like kind of all learn all the stuff like at like our music lessons, which is kind of cool. So yeah.
So you had like a full. So you had the guitar covered, drums.
Yeah.
And what else? Bass.
Yeah, drums, bass, and guitar. Yeah.
Were you doing band stuff together, your brother?
It's funny. Like we never actually really had a full like legitimate band together, but like. When we would like play during our like music lessons, like our like my guitar teacher, who was like their bass and drums teacher respectively, also was like, "Hey, you guys need to come up with a name for this band." And so we came up with the name Louise Mania, which was Teen Witch reference. So I don't know. I guess I don't know. I guess Louise Mania was the name of the band.
So were you doing shows for the family? Were you doing that at least?
No, not really.
See, I used to do like lip syncing.
Okay.
And it would be like a whole performance, and I'd make tickets and all that. You can
that's legit. Do you play anything?
I used to play trombone in a concert band and sing.
Cool.
Yeah.
But
now I use my
played contrabass in the.
What was that?
I played contrabass in orchestra.
Okay.
Pit orchestra, stage band, all that stuff.
So how old were you when you started guitar?
I was like 8 or 9.
Okay. And you asked to play, or?
I was just like, I kind of like wasn't good at anything. Like I was like sucked at art. I like couldn't play sports. So my parents were like, "Oh, I don't know, let's just try like music," and that was like a thing I actually like kind of got into, and I was like excelled at, I guess, like even when I was young. So yeah, that was like sort of kind of how I got into it.
So they didn't think you were a lost cause once they found the guitar for you.
If it wasn't for that, though, man, I don't know. Really, like
what kind of 8-year-old are you?
Even now, like, Jesus. Like, what else do I have?
God. So are you like a big music listener? Was that at least that?
I mean, yeah, like I even when I was like 8, I guess like when I started playing guitar, it was cool. Like my parents were like, you know, my dad, I guess growing up and like, you know, and when he was in college, like he worked at a record store. So like my parents are both like pretty knowledgeable and like cool about music.
Yeah.
Like my mom, like even when I was, you know, like in middle school and stuff, like listened to like indie rock and like would listen to like the college radio stations and stuff, and like would buy like cool like indie CDs at the CD store like in our town, like the local shop, which is cool. But like so they like kind of, I remember like one of the first records I ever got was like, I don't know, like Dinosaur Jr. and like Nirvana Nevermind were like the first two CDs
good first.
I ever got. And like also like a classical guitar CD, because like I think that was like obligatory. Like you gotta like, if you get like, my first guitar was like a little like $50 nylon string acoustic guitar. So like I feel like if you get one of those, you gotta have like the obligatory like whatever like John Williams CD or some shit. And that was probably what I got. So like yeah. So like those reasons, but that was cool. That's like a cool like first record you get, like Dinosaur Jr.
Which one was it? Where you been?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was like the one that was out at the time.
Yeah,
I'm dating myself probably.
Where are you from?
I'm from New York.
Okay.
I kind of like grew up a little bit in the West Village. That's where I was born. Then went most of my schooling was like through in Westchester. Chappaqua. So like K through 12 I went to Chappaqua, and then I went back to New York City for college. Went to NYU, and yeah.
So you was it like a whole music path?
No, actually, not really. There was like always like a music like side path, kind of like all through high school and college. Like I kind of like kept music going. I played in bands like from middle school up through college, but I was like not really like, that was not my focus in school. Like I guess I was studying childhood education, and then like I graduated. My mom's a teacher, so when I graduated, she was like, don't like go into teaching right away. Like you play music. I was playing in a band at the time. Like that kind of fell apart, but she's like, just like do music for a little bit and like see what happens before you can always go back to teaching. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And so I was like barely supporting myself, like doing that stuff. But like, then I joined the Pains Being Pure at Heart, and that kind of like took off. So then I like kind of like was weirdly like fast tracked into like a music career, which was like totally unexpected and kind of like out of nowhere. And that sort of like changed the trajectory of like everything once that happened. Because when I left that band, and I was like I'd been entrenched in like a music career for so long. So
when was that?
I joined that band in like 2006.
Okay.
But and I left in like 2013.
Okay.
So.
And you played drums?
I played drums.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before you were playing with them, were you like, I don't care how rough this is gonna get, like how bad?
I think I was just like really open to whatever, because like, I mean, at that point, like up until the point when that band like really took off and like became a serious thing, like I was like teaching at a music school and like teaching private lessons.
Okay.
I was like doing some like live sound stuff basically.
So you were doing some teaching then?
I was doing some teaching, but it's funny, like I got hired at that music school because I had a teaching degree, which was cool. That was great, actually. Yeah. It was a well-paying job, and like the kids were great, and it was actually like an all-around like really cool experience. But I feel like I got that job because like I had like a teaching degree, which was cool. Yeah.
And what'd you teach? I mean, guitar? Or
well, it was funny. It was kind of like. It was like group lessons. They kind of had like a School of Rock type program, and it was like up in Westchester, so I was like reverse commuting. But it was like well paying enough that
it was worth it.
Made it worth it. So that was cool. But yeah, and then like kind of like touring like took off, and like that. Then I was like in a band, professionally.
What grade was the kids?
It totally varied. Like I had kids that ranged from like 8 to 14, 15 maybe. Yeah. So like huge variety of like skill and ability and like dedication to playing music, which was really interesting because you kind of had to like, you know, really tweak like the lesson plan, so to speak, based on like which kids you had in which groups. But yeah, it was fun. It was actually cool.
Were you like training them for like a concert band or just?
Yeah, so basically like they would kind
of life skills.
Yeah, it was like these kids. Obviously you've probably seen School of Rock, right? That movie.
I don't think. No, I'm like the only person who hasn't.
All right, well check out now. That was my job. No, it was like basically like these kids. They were like kind of these groups that were formed like from like a pool of kids who were like interested in this program, and like kind of like the school would like assemble these bands like based on like what instruments they played, and then they'd have these like scheduled time slots to be like kind of like one after another like on the weekends. And like I was like the band leader, and we would like learn cover songs. We like sometimes write songs. Like I'd be teaching everyone in the band their parts. And kind of like, you know, working on a little bit of like stage, like performance and like, you know, stage presence and whatever. And, like, you know, just like basic band stuff, like, cause they're like so green and like at that stage. But yeah, it was, you know, pretty fun.
So what does stage presence look like for a teenager for preaching?
For them, it's like, you know, like tapping your foot, like rock stomp. But you know, like they would like get into it. It was like pretty adorable sometimes. But yeah, definitely like some good kids there.
How long did you do that?
A couple years. And then I like taught at their summer program for a couple years too, which was cool.
Now, did you have to leave that to do the Pains of...
I did, yeah. It like kind of became like a conflict, like where I like really needed to be there on the weekends and stuff, and like it just like didn't work out after a while. But
so you were trying to do both at one point?
There was one point, yeah. But yeah, it didn't work out.
So how did you get into being in the band?
Being in Pains?
Yeah.
That was like...
Did you originate the band, or you joined?
No, well, so the band like existed for like a few months before I was in the band. And then I became like Kip, who's like, it's basically like his project. So like I became his roommate just like inadvertently, like through like a MySpace message thing. That was like the time. And then so yeah, he moved into my apartment because like I had a roommate moving out and he needed a place. And I like knew of the Pains at that point because my other band at the time, Depreciation Guild, had like played shows with them. So we moved in together, and then like within like a month, he's like, "Hey, do you play drums? Like, you want to like come jam with us?" I was like, "Yeah, cool." And like that's basically what happened. It was like, not a really interesting story. Yeah, it wasn't really much of a tryout. Like the first practice, we were like passing around a Jaeger bottle. That's all I remember. Really, so the rest is a blur.
So how was the whole process of being in a band? Because there was like a good buzz with the band.
Yeah, totally. That was like a pretty cool time, like when we first started like playing that stuff. Yeah, I mean,
were you on the albums or just the touring part?
Yeah, I played on all the records. Thus far. There's a new Pains record coming out kind of soon too. I played some stuff on that.
So you're still in the Pains?
Oh yeah, family. Yeah, Kip and I are bros for life. He's really busy right now. He just had a kid, so he's doing his thing. He's out in New Jersey now, actually, with his wife. And yeah, I mean,
so is that like good enough, or like were you thinking your own project or anything like that?
No, I mean, like even before Pains, I always had like my own music. It was like I like the thing that like got to me after a while, I think, was the touring aspect. That was like really the only thing. Like, I think most people like reach like a point where they're like kind of hit a wall. And I sort of like hit the wall
early
at a certain point. Well, I don't know. I mean, like 6 years seems like a good run to me, but yeah, that's probably like I'm like a wuss.
Like 6 months in, you're like,
no, not 6 months, 6 years. That's pretty good.
No, run. 6 months that you got tired of the tour.
What?
Did you get tired of touring like 6 months in? Or like...
No, 6 years.
Okay, so you did 6 years. That's why you stopped, was because of the touring?
Well, yeah. At the end of 6 years, I was like, I was like, I guess like tired of touring.
Okay, but you were tired of it before that.
Probably, a few years now, whatever.
Because that's like the whole way you're in a van.
Yeah. It was like we did a lot of touring.
Yeah.
For like, we like were pretty hard for like 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
Okay. So what do? You tell them, hey Kip, I'm tired of touring.
He's probably gonna listen to this. I was like,
or you told him something else.
No, it wasn't. It was, it was funny. Like we had like a long period of time where like, it was like in between the second and third record, basically, where we were like not touring for a little bit, for like maybe like, I don't know, it was probably like 9 months or something. And we were working on this record and we were recording it, and I started doing some freelance stuff, like production work for other people. But then like a friend recommended me to this audio branding agency called Listen, to like do some freelance stuff for them. And that company was just kind of like getting off the ground at that time. So I started working for that company, and like my involvement in it like kind of picked up like at the same time as that record was wrapping up, that third record finally. So when we were finishing that up, it kind of came time to like have that question, like, hey, who's available for touring? And I was like, well, I don't really know. I mean, that was like sort of supporting me at that time. Because like when you're not on the road, like, you know, it's kind of hard to like be getting paid all the time. So like everyone kind of was like, you know, finding other like work to sort of like sustain themselves. So like, I don't know. It was like a combination of just like not really like having like done touring for so long, and then also like having this like sort of interesting like,
it was good time
change. It was like it was just sort of like a, I don't know.
Okay, so when was that when you finished up with the band?
It was like 2013.
Okay, and then but your first solo came out the year before. Is that right? Yeah,
it was 2012 was the Ice Choir record. Yeah, I mean, I guess like I had been working on that record like from like 2010 to 2012 or so. Just kind of a lot of it was done. Just stuff I would write on the road when I was like on the road with the Pains, like just in the van, headphones on, kind of thing. And then that came out in 2012.
How did you come upon the sound for that project? For Ice Choir?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess like I was doing some stuff with my last band, Depreciation Guild. I was like the writer for that band, and like I started like just writing some stuff that sounded different than what was like like being released for that project. So I kind of like thought, I was like, I don't know. That band, like we tried touring a bunch, and it like didn't seem like it was like a thing, and it, like I don't know. It kind of became like more of a bummer than it was like fun at a certain point. So I like kind of like, instead of like releasing another record with that and like kind of like changing the sound, like not like a 180 but like a 90, or like I don't know, like a 120 maybe. with like from Depreciation Guild to Ice Choir, like instead of like doing like another Depreciation Guild record, I just kind of decided to like release it under a new name, sort of, and it was like kind of like hitting the reset button a little bit, which can be cool sometimes. And then like I don't know, I guess like originally it was like kind of really only intending to be like a solo thing, sort of like, but then I don't know. After a while, I just like kind of like wanted to like see what happens if we played shows. So I like just brought on board some of my friends. Like Rafi, actually, who's the keyboard player for Ice Choir, was in Depreciation Guild towards the end. So he's like actually a common member. And then Patrick, who's in the other room right now. He plays
Heard, but
keyboards.
Not seen.
He was in the shower before, I think, when he came. He's the keyboard player as well, and plays fretless bass. And then we got Avery on drums.
Because on record, it's all you?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, Patrick actually played some fretless on both records. So, but other than that, it's me. And then occasional guest vocalist kind of deal.
Had you been singing? Like, how long have you been singing? Was that your first time on record singing?
No, I mean, I guess the Depreciation Guild stuff was like, I'm going to pretend like that's the first thing I've ever done. Because I don't want you to like hear my high school band.
If there aren't recordings, then it doesn't exist, right?
Oh, there are.
Oh, there are recordings? Okay.
You'll never hear them.
We'll never hear.
They don't exist. This is pre-internet.
Okay.
Pre-internet.
This will be on your box set when you pass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. That's what I need to make sure it doesn't happen. I need to destroy any remaining.
Yes. Well, it's nice if stuff is pre-internet that you can kind of...
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like that never happened.
Yeah. Well, pre-MySpace at least. It's not totally pre-internet, but it didn't exist, so that's good.
So, but this was the first music record that you were happy with.
Yeah, I mean...
Voice-wise.
Like, yeah, I think like the Depreciation Guild stuff, it's like funny, like that band definitely had like a weird cult following. In retrospect, I'm like not as psyched about those records as I am about like the Ice Choir stuff, and like more namely like the most recent Ice Choir album. But yeah, I mean, I like there are people who like swear by those like first Depreciation Guild records, which I'm like, okay. I don't have to listen to that stuff, so that's cool. I don't listen to any of my music. No. It's like it's all for anyone else to enjoy. As soon as I like submit that to the mastering guy, it's like it's not my thing anymore. This is for you.
God. Do you do a lot of touring with the Ice Choir?
No, we've actually never toured.
Okay.
We've just played locally, like in New York, and we played like Boston and Connecticut once each. And yeah, so this time around we're going to Japan. That's cool.
That is?
Yeah. Maybe Europe. We'll see what happens. It's kind of like talks about that right now.
Okay. How you like being out front with your own music?
Not particularly. I mean, like as like a frontman performing.
Yeah.
No, I don't really think I'm like particularly like a compelling performer, honestly. But it's just kind of like fun to play music with your friends sometimes. Okay. You know, like I think that's like more the enjoyment that I get out of it. Like just like there's a camaraderie and like kind of like, hey, we're like doing this together. Yeah. And it's like interesting. There's like an interesting like dynamic when like there's multiple people playing a song that I just find like fun. Like we just like come up, we practice right here in this room, this tiny ass room. Right. Those are the drum pads Avery uses. And we just like drink beers and like joke around. Like we're not a serious band in any respect. Like,
well, it's kind of like in the day and age where you don't have. Like, your music exists online. It could be received in that way, and you don't actually have to go out and tour.
Yeah, like, in that respect, it's, like, kind of fun and, like, very low stakes. You know? Which is, like, kind of refreshing in a way. Yeah. Like, when we, like, none of us really, like, depend on this as, like, an income or, like... There's, like, very little stress. Like, we kind of just do it for fun. Okay. And, like, we have a good time doing it. That's pretty much it. Really excited about going to Japan.
How did that come about?
Well, we have like a record. Both records came out on the same label there, so like we tried to go there the first time around, kind of fell through, like work obligations and scheduling stuff, and then we just like made it work this time around. So yeah, pretty exciting.
Yeah. And how does the band like change your sound or do live?
I mean.
Or do you try to duplicate it?
We try to, but not like to a T. It's like kind of fun to like have it be like a little bit more loose live. Like there's certain stuff where we're like playing to like sequence stuff, but like I don't know, like playing the bass parts, like the synth bass parts live, like with like live drums, like a little bit looser feel. Like there's something cool about like that slightly human element about it live, because like the records are so like. You know, like quantized kind of. It's like a slightly more it's not interesting. It's just like kind of like a, I don't know. Maybe it's worse. Okay. Maybe it's worse. Basically,
Japan will let us know.
Yeah, right.
So, how long have you been working on the new album? It came out in September.
Yeah, it came out in September.
The title,
Designs and Rhythm. Yep.
Excellent. quite
Thank
excellent.
you.
I've been listening to it a lot.
Yeah,
that's
cool. I appreciate that.
Thanks to Bandcamp.
Yeah, sweet.
Who are not sponsoring the show, but if they wanted to. But
yeah, sure.
Yeah, how long have you been working on that?
That started, I guess, I started writing stuff shortly after the first record, but it was I don't know. This time around, there wasn't a lot of writing in the van, creative session time for me. There was it was a pretty different, I had a job pretty much semi full time throughout this whole thing. So it was a lot. It was more of a weekend kind of hobby type approach this time around on this record. But yeah, I guess since probably the end of 2012, beginning of 2013, I was working on stuff, and then I kind of wrapped it up at the end of 2015. Yeah, I mean, all the songs were written by the end of the summer of 2015, and then it was all mixed and mastered kind of by end of 2015, early 2016.
So you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm fine with that. It's just a synth 80s inspired sound. Is that what you're listening to?
Sure, yeah, pretty much always.
Okay. I'm fine if I was wrong.
No, yeah.
Is that what you're listening to? That type of music? Is that
yeah, totally. I mean,
to?
Yeah, I listen to. There was a big Japanese influence on this whole record.
How so?
I mean, I just listen to a lot of Japanese music.
And is it Japanese synth music or?
Yeah, kind of techno pop, sort of city pop, J-pop stuff.
Okay.
From more specifically 1983 to 1989 generally. But yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that I kind of discovered in between this record and the last record. There was a lot of the stuff was also stuff I listened to it, upwards of I guess 10, 12 years now at this point. The big names, Wymo, Taiko Inuki, that kind of stuff.
Taiko.
What's that?
I've heard of Taiko.
Oh, Taiko Inuki, yeah, she's really great. But yeah, those kind of major names, those have been a big influence just on me as a songwriter for a while. But I definitely discovered some kind of cool stuff in between the two albums.
Yeah. How'd you get into the Japanese pop?
I don't know. It's well, I guess I kind of started with definitely Wymo. That's always kind of the locus of everything that sort of came out of Japan as far as what broke over here in the US. Because all the guys in that band have kind of done tons of other stuff.
Yeah,
they've produced records for so many artists. And then there was Yen Alpha, which was kind of their label sort of. And so all the bands related to them, there was this kind of I don't know, there's clique of bands that were just and musicians that were kind of in that whole scene. So it's sort of easy to find some of that stuff. But then the more unknown names, at least here, a lot of that stuff came from Soulseek, and a lot of it came from Patrick. Is he's a maniac with this stuff. Patrick is my bandmate, in case anyone forgot. But he is very good.
Okay,
he's a very good internet sleuth, basically.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah, he's a sleuth. But he will go on these very deep dives where he just kind of clicks around on Discogs, and he finds producers who worked on some record that's obscure, and then will be copy and pasting Japanese text into Google Translate, and it's
it's work.
Minority Report shit. And he'll just discover this stuff, and then obviously he'll share that with me, and then so a lot of this stuff we'll become obsessed with some guy, and then we'll try to find, we'll order records from Japan. It used to be that we'd have to do this. We would order records from Japan, and then like kind of like share them with each other. Like we would like sort of like buy like we each like buy like one album by like some guy or whatever, and then like we like share them and like rip them from vinyl. It's like so annoying. But like just recently there's been this like incredible resource which just like kind of like has existed for a while but just started like posting way more of the stuff that we love like from this like specific time period. It's really cool. It's called J-Pop 80s Blogspot. It's not jpop80s.blogspot.com, but it's like something like that if you Google it. And this guy Jun Lee like just posts really good stuff. Like, and he's been posting all this stuff that like took us forever to track down, which
all
is
that
like
work you had to do.
all that work is like, which is great for everyone else. But, like, and it's like all like high quality rips and stuff. And it's like, all right, sick.
So the period is from 83 to,
I would say like, I mean that's just my zone specifically. Like Patrick, like his zone is like a little bit like he's like 78 to like 86.
Okay.
So there's some crossover of stuff that we both love, but yeah.
Is there what are the similarities or difference between say synth pop in America or British synth pop during that period?
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing that I can like just draws me to like Japanese synth pop specifically is like there's just like this there's like this high level of like excitement in the music, and like there's a like an interesting level of like harmonic complexity that it's not that it doesn't exist in like Western pop music is from that time period. I should say it does because it does exist there, but it's just like it exists in like way higher frequency.
Okay.
So like the success rate of like me finding like songs that like really do it for me like is like so much higher in like Japanese pop for some reason. It's just like there's like kind of like a jazzier and like more like classically influenced like approach to like some of the songwriting and arrangements. Like just really interesting chord structures and like voice leading and stuff, and I just like found that really inspiring on this most recent record. So just like kind of, I don't know, I just like immersed myself in so much of that music for like so long that I think it kind of like at a certain point just like broke my brain a little bit. And I like started like kind of like writing more in that style, which is like kind of cool. Cause I just loved like that sound. And then also like the sounds of like the keyboards and like just the synth sounds are like really cool sometimes. Yeah. So I don't know.
What about lyrically? Like what?
Lyrically, I get nothing out of that music because I have no idea what's going on. But it's like, but vocally and like, I mean, most of the time, like I don't really listen to music for lyrics anyway, so it doesn't really bother me so much. But like some of the vocal lines and the way that those work with the chord changes is I get a lot out of that. There's like some just like really cool like memorable hooks and stuff.
For you lyrically, like what are your things like for this album? What do you draw from?
It's like I don't know, I2 like lyrics are just always just very abstract and like kind of personal for me, but I kind of write them in a way where it's like kind of cryptic enough that it can mean kind of different things for different people, and that's like kind of the intention actually. You know, I always want it to be personal for me, but like, you know, not like so like fenced off that it's like you know, I don't know, like an unbreachable wall of like whatever. But like I'm sure like it probably comes across as that, but it's like I don't know. I focus more on like using like, you know, like diction that kind of like denotes beauty without like being like overtly like a specific thing, kind of, you know. I don't know. That's vague, but I also just don't like talking about lyrics because like I don't know. It kind of like ruins. It ruins the magic of like a song if you know what it's about and it's like not what you if you like find out what it's about and it's not what you thought it was about. Yeah. See, so I'd rather people just like stay like enchanted. You know?
Because that is sort of you're like Tori Amos or someone. They're like, oh yeah, this song is about this. And you're like, no, really. Seriously? Okay, I get for you it is, but
Yeah.
really? Okay.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I wrote the song about, honestly.
Like, it just feels
If you
good
like
to say it.
if you like it and you like the sound of the words, and like that's like most of the intention anyway. You know?
God. So you're balancing your own music career with your like commercial work.
Yeah.
Because I saw, what did I see? Shameless.
Yeah, that was the thing
You did
I just did recently.
Music.
Yeah.
For the promo for Shameless. Season
I did.
7.
Yes. Not a show I've ever watched.
Uh-huh.
I did do
Me
it.
neither. I've never seen it either.
Yeah. I saw the British one. A couple
I've seen
episodes of that. That was pretty cool.
I know when I saw your promo, I'm like, it's still on? Like, this is 7 years?
Yeah, it's the 7th season of the American one.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows? So, is it like different approaches, like when you're doing music that's not your own? Like,
oh yeah.
Like, what do you get? Like an assignment? Like, okay, this is what we're looking for.
Yeah, it's like, there's a lot more like client facing discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're like creating music for like a purpose or some kind of use, you know, which is like interesting. That was like definitely like a skill set I kind of had to like figure out along the way. But I guess I like broke into it working for like, an audio branding agency who like deals with some kind of like that kind of stuff. We do like sound design, we do like composition stuff. So, I don't really have to deal with like the client facing stuff, which is cool for me. I'm like more on the creative side anyway.
In video games.
That stuff. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like how I like sort of figured out how to like work with somebody who like needs, like an audio asset basically for the first time. Like kind of, the video game stuff has been really fun. I mean, I've always loved video games. That's always been like a, like a passion of mine, like, for pleasure basically, since I was a young kid. But, that was pretty cool to, kind of like break into that, like sort of like simultaneously with this stuff. But yeah, that's been a pretty good experience. Like I've only done like a few games, but it's been pretty cool. I definitely really like writing video game soundtracks just because like I kind of like my own music that I write, for pleasure. Ice Choir is like not too far off from that. It's like kind of video game music. My last band, Appreciation Guild, literally like had video game elements in it. So it's like,
so this is definitely in your wheelhouse, right?
It is, yeah, for sure.
God, I guess it takes some of the pressure too that you don't have to rely on your own music to support you.
Yeah, no, it's like actually like a really nice thing. I can just kind of like do whatever I want with that music, even though I know it's like not popular or cool. It's just like the music I love. So I can just like make that music and like not really feel pressured into like having it be a thing or like worry about like how I like represent myself on Twitter. I can just be like the idiot that I normally am on Twitter and like have that be my Twitter handle. Like I don't have to like worry about anything.
But what I like about the album is that there's a lot of times when people have, it's going to sound like this particular period, whether it's like 80s music or 60s soul, we're going to get the Zach sounds, but there's no songs there. Like with you, there's actual like hooks and melodies and songwriting.
I like hooks, man. So that's why, I like
here.
gotta write the hooks because I like hooks.
So like these songs could have like a different musical setting and still, I feel like they still can
I
work.
would like to think so. That's really nice to hear because, like it's just so happens that I really like those sounds. Like I mentioned, like, I hear like Japanese 80s pop music and I'm like, whoa, those keyboard sounds, that's the shit.
Yeah.
So that's why I put them in my music because I like that shit. But like,
so at the very beginning of writing a song, is it just you like at the keyboards?
No, man, I don't even play keyboard actually.
Okay.
So I just like the way I write a song is like,
I don't know why I thought keyboard.
What?
I guess because it's such a keyboard.
It is.
sound.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
You would think that I would be able to play keyboard, but I actually
and I'm looking at keyboards, so that's probably
there are
why.
definitely keyboards in this room that have been used at some point, mostly like as like a return for like a MIDI cable.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like I the writing process is like kind of one that like doesn't really make sense to a lot of people. I don't really like actually use a keyboard for the most part, like to like write any of this stuff. I kind of just like hear chords in my head and I like sound them out using MIDI piano roll, and I kind of just like work out the kinks as I go. And I kind of just like, you know, I do these things called like, I call them like chord sketches, where I just like, you know, come up with like a certain sequence of chords that are like kind of working for me, and then I'll kind of like, you know, like through like voice leading, sort of like write like a vocal line and like a bass part around that, kind of like all simultaneously. And that's like generally like how the songs work out. And then I kind of like, so the keyboard's always like, synths are like always the focus.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like working out rhythm stuff too, like kind of as I go. But like at like along the way, like the songs like sort of like get born as like I just like fill in like every little space. Like that's the thing about Ice Choir. It's like if there's like one like thing that I do, it's like filling in every gap. Okay. There's always a thing happening. That's like my that's like my
like there's no space.
No, there's no space. Okay. It's like I like to think of like Ice Choir is like the least chill music possible. It's like meant to stress you out. Like that, because like when I'm stressed out, I'm like engaged with stuff. So like that's like another thing where I hear like Japanese music, I hear like cool synth pop stuff. I'm always just like constantly engaged. So like I love like little things jumping out. So like that's, you know, that's what I like to do. And like the song's done when like all the gaps are filled in, basically. That's like that's how I know. You fill in every little hole. Little tiny synths, little squiggly sound.
Like we're done.
Little macaroni synth over here. It's done.
So you got when's the tour? Like any other plans for Ice Choir?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I would like to go to LA because like we have, I guess, people who like listen to our music over there who are like being like, hey, when are you guys gonna come over here? And we never did that. I think that would be cool to do. We're like talking about doing like a European tour in like early 2017, which would be obviously cool. That would be like a pretty nice vacation. Go to Europe. I mean, I used to go over there all the time. Haven't been there in a few years, so I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Okay, cool.
But like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I want to start writing some songs again. I always like doing that.
You're not gonna take 4 years again.
Who knows, man? I'm old.
Yeah. So, good place for people to keep up to date with you online, Ice Choir.
Yeah, I mean, we have, you know, all the normal stuff. I guess like Facebook and Twitter, icechoir.com.
Okay, that's the home.
I mean, I post some show dates and stuff on there.
Okay. So that's the base, Ice Choir.
Icechoir.com. Yeah, why not? Let's make that the base. You can get to all the other stuff on that page anyway. So. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Thank you, Kurt.
Yeah, thank you very much,
pleasure.
Boys. Very good to be on your podcast.
Yeah, thank you for being on.
Noah's hearing, engineering, networks reaching, come alive, a deeper dive, after peering, interfering, shadows over happiness, on precipice of usefulness, am I?
And there you have it, 2 tracks from today's guest, Ice Choir, from the album Designs in Rhythm, The Garden of Verse, and kicking it all off, Noosphering. Make sure you go to the website, icechoir.com, and you should definitely get the album. If you enjoy those 2 songs, you will not be disappointed with the rest of it. I am online, several places, several ways. This is boice.com. I write books. I make music, so you can check out all of them there. And the podcast has its own website, which is talkmusictalk.com for more information on the podcast. And if you happen to be on Instagram, follow me there at This Is Boice. And don't forget my call to action request at the top of the show. Please share this episode on social media if you enjoyed it. Also, take the survey, talkmusictalk.com/survey. And finally, make sure you download the app, the Talk Music Talk free app, wherever you get your apps for iPhone and Android. Or you can listen to the show by subscribing on Google Play or iTunes. And just recently, I started adding episodes of the podcast to SoundCloud, so you should do a search for Talk Music Talk there. And may I make a back catalog suggestion for you? Episode number 97, if you enjoyed the music of Ice Choir, you will enjoy the music of Computer Magic, the Project of Dance. You will hear one of the songs from her latest EP, which just came out. That's Computer Magic, episode number 97. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, and there will be a next time, this one's for you, Liz.